Sussex Tottenham says Kulusevski is too inconsistent to become a top player. 2 class games, 2 poor games, 2 average games. The cycle continues. On his day, he's very good, but like a lot of this team, too inconsistent. I actually think he's been probably the most consistent player we've had this season. Decky.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a weird criticism this season. I think maybe in previous seasons you can argue that point, but I think this season right now I don't think he's had a bad game, to be honest. I think he's been pretty consistently good. So we'll have to wait and see.
It's a small sample size, though.
It's a small sample size, so we'll have to wait and see if he can keep up for the rest of the season. But I don't know. I just think for this season it's a bit harsh criticism, but we'll see. Like, I don't see why you would see how he's playing this season and then make that point. But I can understand maybe in seasons gone by that's a valid criticism.
Yeah, this point that he's brought up is probably not just on this season. It's probably just on his Spurs career as a whole. And if you want to take his Spurs career as a whole, then he's absolutely spot on. Yeah,
that's true. But we'll have to wait and see if he's got over that or not. He's still young. Got to remember, he's still a young player.
What, 24?
Yeah. So like he's 24 now. So maybe he can get to a stage where he can get that consistency. Maybe he's hit that. We'll have to wait and see.
D-Ran THFC saying Kulusevski is better than Bellingham as of today.
Better than
Have
Bellingham.
a break. Have a day
Come
off,
on.
mate. Have a day off.
Come on. Decky. Come on.
Spurs shirts fan says Under Armour made the best, some of our best shirts.
Is that an unpopular opinion? Did not people not like the Under Armour?
I'm trying to think of the Under Armour shirts. There were some really nice Under Armour shirts.
AVB time,
but you know, a lot of
Poch, early stages of Poch.
Yeah, a lot of people give the Nike a bad rap, but I think Nike have made some brilliant shirts for Spurs.
They'd be nice. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't have a big problem with Nike. Under Armour, they were quite nice. I'm trying to think of the away kits with Under Armour. The Erasmus shirts.
Yeah.
Autonomy.
They were good. Yeah. They were good, but I still think Nike have been better.
I think I prefer the Nike ones as well.
Vic says Davinson Sanchez was a better defender than Dragishin.
Wow.
Now that is a muddy take.
Jeez. I guess we haven't still, as much as I like Dragishin, we actually haven't seen like that much of him in the grand scheme of things since he's come in January. But Sanchez I haven't seen many clown moments like Sanchez used to have so far. Apart from obviously he did have the red card, but
when I think of Davinson Sanchez, I just think against Man City that face palm into the ground.
I just think of Bambi on ice. That's how I think of just someone sliding around, slipping over, just like not being like just always being bamboozled. That's what I think of when I think of Sanchez. On his day, to be fair, he was a very good defender when he was concentrating, and he was because he's strong and he's quick and he could be very good. So he had some really good days, but like just more often than not, he'll lose concentration or he'd slip over or do just something bad. And I haven't seen that so far from Dragishin, but then again, last game did get the red card.
With Davinson, it was so frustrating because when you look at him, he's got all the tools to be a top centre back, particularly in the Premier League. You know, he's fast, good physique, he's strong, could potentially be good on the ball as well, but every time he had a couple of good games and the whole fan base would be like, oh, we've got Davinson's actually playing all right now. And then he puts in a stinker.
Exactly. Always a full storm with Davinson.
Running Man says, when everyone is fit, Son should be on the bench and he shouldn't be captain.
Why shouldn't he be captain? Why shouldn't he be captain?
What is this?
He's a great leader.
I can't stand when Spurs fans go in on Sonny. Like, it happens year after year after year, and he proves everyone wrong year after year after year. When is everyone just going to realise this guy is our best player? He's got the most quality out of anyone in the team, particularly the forward line, and he's most adept at being a captain, and he's the best leader we have in the team as well. So I hate all these bad takes about Sonny. They actually piss me off.
Like, I understand criticising Son. Like, everyone is worthy of criticism, and Son is no less than anyone else. But when people say he's done and he should be on the bench and we need to sell him and all this kind of stuff, I think it's just nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. Like, there's nothing he's shown, even this season, to suggest that he's at that level where he's done or he's not offers nothing or he's useless nor he should be benched. Like, you know, that performance against Brentford, like one of the best creative performances we've seen. He's already got 4 goal contributions this season as well in 5 games. Yeah. Like, this guy is still performing and he's still putting up numbers, and people still want to say all this rubbish about him. I just don't understand until he gets to a stage where he's like consistently not performing. Like he's never hit that stage. So like I don't understand all this. It's like people are just like ready like to rush his end for some reason. I don't know why. Like I don't know why fans always like want to preempt it like they're ahead of the game. Like, yes, he's 32. Yes, obviously he's not going to go on forever, but he's still at a stage where he's performing consistently at a really high level. And I don't understand why people just want to be done with him. I don't get that.
You'll be sorry once he's gone.
Exactly.
You'll be very sorry once he's gone. Comet says, I'd replace Romero with Ben Davis. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, he's not. Is that Ariane? No, I wouldn't do that.
What is that buddy take?
I
As much as Romero has let us down on a few occasions this season, to say you want Ben Davis starting ahead of Romero is mind-boggling.
So you'd want Ben Davis head of Dragoshin, I'm guessing he's saying.
Ben Davis at right centre-back, yeah?
Exactly.
You on that?
I don't, and to be fair to Davis, he's been all right when he's played, but I don't think he's been that good where you could say like he needs to be ahead of Romero. No chance.
Yeah. Davey Spur says Romero's had a bad start to the season and Dragoshin should be given a chance in his place. I mean, I wouldn't be against it right now. I really wouldn't.
I think that I would still play Romero as much as he's kept making mistakes, because I know he can play through it. I know he's a player when he's at his best. We need that kind of quality. I guess, look, if he keeps making his mistakes, there has to come a stage where he has to come out of the team for sure. For me, he hasn't hit it just yet. But if he keeps happening, then I'll take him out and put Dragoshin in. But just the problem for me is when Dragoshin's played, he's not been great. So I don't see. It's not, if Dragoshin had been performing really well in the games he's been playing, I'd probably agree, but he hasn't. So I wouldn't be in that level, that stage where he has to come in. But if Dragoshin can up his game and Romero keeps making mistakes, then I agree.
But it's like, if you're Dragoshin and you're seeing, I know Romero, he's had very good games this season, right? When we're in the ascendancy, when we're on the ball and when we're playing well, Romero's brilliant. When the chips are down and we're struggling, Romero does go missing from time to time, and the goals that he's been at fault for this season. So if Dragoshin is watching that, surely he's losing a bit of do you think he's losing a bit of motivation to be like, how am I ever going to get in this team if he's playing like that and he's been at heart of a few goals that we've conceded this season? When's he ever going to get his chance in the Premier League?
Yeah, but Dragoshin's got to do his part as well. And his part is doing well when he gets the opportunity, and he hasn't done that yet. So partly, as much as he'll be feeling that, but he shouldn't be blaming anyone but himself for not doing his part at the moment.
Do you feel like if he would have had a good performance in the Carabao game, in the Coventry game, then he would be getting his chance in the league?
Maybe. I think there'd be more of a case for it, is my point.
But even if there is more of a case to it, I still don't think he would have taken out Romero in the league.
Well, he wouldn't have taken out for Brighton because he was playing really well up until then. Obviously, the early parts of the season, I think we should have rested Romero anyway in the early parts of the season because he didn't get a break in the summer. So I think Dragoshin probably should have got a chance then. I agree. Obviously, we played Romero through that, gave a few sloppy goals. But to be fair to Romero, obviously since the Arsenal game, he was pretty consistent for a good few games. Then obviously the game against Brighton. But then you can make a case for all the defenders being dropped after that Brighton game, not just him, as much as he's culpable for being the captain. But
the difference is that Romero has had previous poor performances this season. The other ones haven't really. Yeah,
but after a run of a good few games, I don't want to just all of a sudden drop him again because of one mistake or a bad half. I would still want to get him back to that consistency he was showing in those 5 games rather than bash him and take him out of the team based off that half.
Shimon says 18 says Son is done. Enough of these crap.
Scroll past this rubbish.
Son is done. He's our best bloody player.
You're done. Unliked.
NJ says Van de Ven and Udogie are not as good as our fan base make out.
Van de Ven, well, how good do we make? Well, why? Because Van de Ven slipped a few times against Brighton and in Newcastle. Was that why? He's been so consistent. I don't understand why people have these agendas. Because I know we hype up Van de Ven a lot, but people take those Newcastle and Brighton games and they extrapolate it as if he does that more often than he does. He's literally had those are 2 games I can point to where Van de Ven's just not played well. like the majority of the time he's played, he's just been so consistent, but barely makes any mistakes. He's so good at sweeping up, so important to the team. He's a fantastic centre back. I'm astonished how, at his age, how consistent he is, and actually his temperament and composure. He's just so good, and he's still so young. What, 22, 23? Came into the team at 22, so he's still, for a centre back as well. Usually centre backs at that age, you know, Saliba's one who's obviously an anomaly, but usually centre backs at that age are not that strong. And Van de Ven is class. He's one of the best in the league. I really believe that. Like, how good does NJ think he is then if he's not as good as what we're making out?
I think if Van de Ven is in any of the top six, you know, we were talking about the top six with our forward line. If Van de Ven is any of the top six teams, he starts for all of them.
Pretty much, yeah. I think he gets in. Doggy, when he's the problem with the Doggy is since last season, you know, he had that injury, and you know when the games leading up to injury he wasn't very good, and then the beginning of this season he had a couple of games where he started well, but then you know second half he wasn't so
come
good.
back from an injury.
Brighton, it happened, but I actually think there have been signs of a Doggy getting back to his best, and I think when he's at his best and he's at his most fittest, there are very few left backs better than him. And also, the left back market in the Premier League is not very strong. You got like Calafiori and like Ake, but like there's not like too many good left backs. Robertson, but he's aging. He's not as good as he used to be. Estepinian, but is he much better than the Doggy? I don't think so. Like, I think the Doggy is right up there with the best left backs in the league. There's just not that many good left backs.
What's the name? The Fulham one.
Robertson, he's a good one. I'm not saying they're not good, but there's no like great. It's not like loads of great to pick from where it's crazy to say a Doggy's one of the best. Yeah. I don't think it is. So
I think a Doggy is one of the best. I think he's brilliant, and especially for his age as well. He's only going to be getting better.
So I wonder what NJ, where would he place these guys if he's not saying they're as good as we think? Like, where would he place them?
Kebby says Eze over Sonny. Nah. I would not take Eze over Sonny, but who I would take Eze over is probably, I would potentially take Eze over James Maddison.
Well, not how he's playing this season at the moment. He's had a bit of poor start to the season. I like Eze a lot. Is he a better player than Maddison? I think when they're both at their very best, I actually still think Maddison, but I think Eze is probably a bit more consistent than Maddison, especially when he keeps. I think he's got a better injury record. He stays fit a bit more, and I think Maddison makes more of a difference actually when to the overall game when they're both like at their very, very best. I actually still think Maddison's better. The question always has been for Maddison about staying consistent. And would you rather a consistent 7 or 8 out of 10 or someone who can do 9s and also do 5s? That's the problem when you got Maddison.
But Eze can do 9s as well.
I don't think he does them as much as Maddison.
Well, if you look at the back end of last season, when Glasner just came in towards the end of the season, I mean, he was putting in worldies every week.
I think it was actually more Elise than him, to be honest.
Both of them were.
I think Elise was the better one, to be honest. But I think Eze's still good. Don't get me wrong, I love Eze. I'm being one of his biggest fans. If you ask me to swap Eze for Maddison right now, if I just a straight swap, would I swap Eze for Maddison?
I would.
Would I swap? It's a tough decision, man. It's tough. I think I would say no. I'm going to say no.
I think 100% yes. 100%. Dallas and Spurs says Porro is our most overrated player.
Why?
I don't think he's our most overrated player.
Again, one of the best right
Porro's
backs
brilliant.
in the league.
Porro's brilliant.
You got Trent, right? Who else is better? I mean,
Got
who's
Ben
better?
White.
Ben White. I mean, even that, I think it's not that. I think it's close, in my opinion. But yeah, you could argue Ben White, but I think you could definitely make arguments for
Kyle Walker.
Porro. You got Walker, but he's declining. As much as he's good, he's still declining, and I think he's not as good as he was. I thought he was terrible for England in the Euros. I
think Porro is one of the players
again,
that have
in the top 5. I think
he's
probably.
consistently improved under Angelo, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. He's gone better and better. And why is he overrated? Again, I would say he's one of the best right backs in the league. Why is that overrating him? Is he not? I don't know. Why not?
I think he's top 4 right backs in the league. Not sure where he ranks, so. But top 4 for sure. Owen THFC says Van de Ven is already better than Romero. What do you reckon? Who's better, Van de Ven or Romero?
I think Romero is the better player at their best, in my opinion. But Van de Ven is probably more consistent. He's got a more consistent base level. He doesn't have those lapses usually. But then again, I feel like Van de Ven as well, when we're defending deep, he maybe doesn't have the lapses because he's not. He's like, we're defending so high all the time. He's not in those positions a lot. Whereas maybe Romero, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to like crossing in the box, in a weird way, I think Romero is actually still better than him, even though he's the one lapsing in concentration a bit more. But I think Van de Ven can also get caught in those situations, but it's not as obvious all the time when he does it.
I feel like with Van de Ven and Romero, I feel like if one of them is going to get a big injury that will affect us more, it'll be Van de Ven, because I don't think we have a defender that can replicate what Van de Ven does in terms from the defensive aspect of the game, where if you bring in a Dragoshin over Romero, yeah, you're losing the quality on the ball that Romero has, but from a pure defensive capability level, I feel like we miss Van de Ven a lot more than we would miss Romero in the team.
True. Like, would I rather Dragoshin and Romero or Dragoshin and Van de Ven? I'll probably Dragoshin and Van de Ven.
Yeah, so I think Van de Ven is more important to us than Romero.
I agree with that. I can agree. In terms of how we play, especially, I would agree with that. But as well, people underestimate how important Romero is in his that proactive work that he does. And, you know, he's top of the league for ball recoveries, like in the middle of the park. And that is so important how he plays, because every time he wins the ball back, that's just another chance to attack. But then again, the same with Van de Ven. Every time he sweeps, that's just another attack thwarted for the opposition, and that's also just as important. So I'm not saying there's anything more, but I think people see those sweeps, right? And that's like because
it's so in your face.
It's so in your face. He's running in behind. He's using that pace, and it's like an obvious thing because there's usually an attacker running in one-on-one, and then Van de Ven comes and saves the day, right? Those are always things that stick in your mind. But when Romero's like pinching the ball off an attacker in the middle of the park, people don't remember those things. But all those are also very important.
True.